Reports indicate that the United States is preparing a major policy shift regarding the war in Ukraine that could fundamentally alter the geopolitical map of Europe. According to diplomatic sources and reporting by The Telegraph, the administration of President Donald Trump is considering a peace framework that would formally recognize Russian control over Crimea and other occupied territories. Envoys linked to the White House have reportedly been engaged in direct talks with Russian officials to outline the terms of this proposal. This potential concession has generated alarm across European capitals and deep concerns in Kyiv, where officials have long maintained that surrendering sovereign land is legally impossible. The proposal marks a dramatic departure from previous American foreign policy and would hand the Kremlin a significant strategic victory. European leaders fear that Washington is prioritizing a rapid exit from the conflict over the territorial integrity of Ukraine, leaving the nation in a precarious position as it faces its most uncertain moment since the invasion began. The situation on the ground in Ukraine has deteriorated sharply alongside these diplomatic maneuvers, compounding the pressure on the government. Even Stupak, a former Ukrainian intelligence officer, publicly admitted that the country can no longer sustain an army of 800,000 soldiers, even in peacetime, due to economic and demographic exhaustion. This reality check coincides with reports that the United States is pushing for restructuring of Ukrainian defense capabilities to match these limitations. On the battlefield, the strain is becoming visible as troops stationed near the second-largest city of Kharkiv have reportedly refused frontline orders, citing a critical lack of combat vehicles and support. Taking advantage of this disarray, Russian forces have intensified their attacks on the region. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov seized on these developments, issuing a statement that the government in Kyiv is facing a deep political crisis fueled by corruption and that Western backers are beginning to question the viability of the current Ukrainian administration. Political instability in Kyiv reached a breaking point yesterday with the sudden resignation of Andriy Yermak, the chief of staff to President Volodymyr Zelensky. Yermak, who was considered the second most powerful official in the country and the lead negotiator for talks with the United States, stepped down following raids on his home and office by anti-corruption agencies. Investigators from the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine are probing an alleged $100 million embezzlement scheme linked to wartime energy protection funds and the state nuclear operator. President Zelensky delivered an emergency address acknowledging the severity of the situation and announced a sweeping reshuffle of his team, replacing political appointees with military and intelligence officials. The removal of such a central figure complicates Ukraine's strategy just days before decisive talks with Washington are set to resume, creating a power vacuum at the heart of the negotiating team. Across the rest of Europe, nations are struggling to adapt to shifting security landscape and the potential withdrawal of American support. Western analysts have urged European Union leaders to call the bluff of President Putin by forming a defense bloc independent of the United States, but internal divisions have stalled these initiatives. In a move to bolster the eastern flank of NATO, Lithuania announced a major infrastructure package to support the indefinite deployment of over 1,000 American troops and HIMARS missile units, a step Moscow denounced as a direct security threat. Meanwhile, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte warned from Iceland that the alliance must not be naive about growing Russian and Chinese activity in the Arctic. Tensions also flared in France, where President Emmanuel Macron accused Russia of interfering in elections in Romania and Moldova, despite facing counter-accusation regarding French political meddling and attempts to silence online dissent. The strain of global geopolitical pressure is also visible in the United Kingdom and Scandinavia as government grapple with resources management and security threats. The British government is reportedly facing severe financial difficulties, forcing it to sell diplomatic properties and embassies to manage its budget while its global influence wanes. Domestic energy advisor have warned Prime Minister Keir Starmer that Britain risks facing serious gas shortfall by the end of the decade if North Sea supplies are not replaced, triggering fears of winter blackouts. Further north, the government of Denmark has established a special night watch unit to monitor statements made by President Trump regarding Greenland. This action follows renewed comments from the American leader expressing interest in acquiring the island for national security reasons. Copenhagen views this pressure as a challenge to its sovereignty and has increased defense monitoring in the Arctic to track any potential escalation in the region. If you have made it this far, congratulations, you have unlocked the truth. I want to ask you a quick question though. With reports suggesting the United States is ready to recognize Russian control over Crimea and other territories to end the war, do you think this represents a realistic acceptance of the battlefield situation? Or is it a dangerous capitulation that validates aggression and leaves Ukraine defenseless against future attacks? Can a peace deal forced by external powers ever result in lasting stability? Or will this land for peace strategy ultimately lead to the collapse of the Zelensky administration? And why? Join the debate. We want to hear your insightful opinion on where this is all heading in our community. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I appreciate your support. Thank you for being a part of this journey. Like the video, share this video with friends and family, hit the notification bell, and most importantly, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.